everyone.
It didn't go live, I'm sure.
Is it live?
Was
yes,
that his
we
phone?
are live. Yes.
Okay.
That was Darwin's phone. If anyone heard that, that was
You-
not my phone.
It's not her phone. Okay.
All right.
Air
We are
Crete.
talking about Air Crete, a refractory mix.
And just basic practical uses for Air Crete. We've done pizza ovens. We've done rocket mass stoves. When Julie got here, I was out doing a test burn on a forge I built. That's the refractory mix I used in it. And it's super light, but it's a little heavier than normal Air Crete because I put silica sand in it.
It's still pretty light.
Hey there from Illinois. Hey Anita, how you doing? I think you ordered a foam mate from me, didn't you, Anita? Yeah, I think she did.
Danny Bull says hello. Hi, Danny.
Hey Danny.
Okay, so today what you wanted to know was how practically is everything working on Air Crete? Because most of it is at my house.
Yes.
Yeah, most of it is at Julie's house. That's where this whole experiment started. And it didn't start out as Air Crete. It just started out as a rocket mass stove. And I wanted a way to make it lighter, and I needed a way to insulate things around it to make it work effectively. And traditionally, on everything that I'd seen in the past, they had put some type of a ceramic insulation around their tubes. Their tubes were all steel, and they were having problems with them spalling.
Andy says hi from England.
Hello, Andy.
And Peru. Did you see from Peru too?
And Anita said yes, the plans. And yeah, Joel says hi from Peru. And Anita Dawn says, hey, Andy, your Fairland is on our bucket list.
Oh, fun.
Right? All right, so yeah, we really do
But
want
what
to
we're
know
doing here is a
how-
question and answer session. Because the things that we've done are the rocket mass heater, the stove pipe to make it work.
Right.
Right? I call that my hot air vacuum because once it gets a little bit warm, it really just sucks, and it makes a rocket mass system work great. This is the only bench system I've ever seen where it comes out of the downdraft tube from the rocket mass and drops 2 feet down into the bench.
Well, and I chastised you at the beginning.
Oh God.
Anybody that
It's supposed to make a 2% rise.
I'm like,
and I'm
it's a 2% rise. All the books say it has to be a 2% rise. It is not going to draft. And he's like, it'll draft. It'll draft.
It'll work.
And I'm like,
We gotta
"Ugh."
fix the chimney.
Yeah, and that's what he'd say every time. He'd say, well, it's not insulated. You have all this cold, and it actually burned just fine until we had some really cold drops at night.
What really was fascinating to me was Julie did a live show on Facebook, and she cooked biscuits in it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran her out some fire starter pucks, and the stove was completely cold. I felt the rocks, they were cold from the below freezing night before.
And it had been a couple of days since you
It had been a couple days
And
since I
she
did
started it up. The oven was up to temperature because it's sitting right over the top of the downdraft tube, right above the heat riser. It was heated up in 10 minutes.
Yep.
She baked the biscuits in 20 minutes and shut the stove down. And she didn't run it through the bench or anything, so it didn't get her cabin hot or anything. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was as fast as the preheat on an electric oven. It was that fast to get it up to temperature to cook with it. And then when it was done, I had one window open in the cabin, and it was 68 degrees. It wasn't a cold day.
No.
It was a moderately nice day. And I had that thing going with actual wood in it for about maybe 45 minutes, and then I just let it die out, and the cabin never heated up. It's a very, it's just, you look at it and you think, well, it doesn't have fancy knobs and whistles, but whether you're running it through the chimney or whether you're running it through the bench or whether you have the stove on it is really...
Makes all the difference.
It makes all the difference. If I don't have the stove on it, it would have heated the cabin up a lot faster, but because I put the stove on it, I closed the door, I let it heat up. We had all the heat getting centered in the stove or going up the chimney, so the cabin didn't get too warm. But if I had been ready for a couple hours first to warm the chimney up, to warm the bench up, to warm everything up, I probably would have had to open doors at that point if that's cooked, but had most of the heat going out through the chimney.
Yeah. And what fascinated me was when we first installed the pizza oven on it, or the bread oven, it was a cold day.
It was.
We had to, start it and run it for an hour to heat up the cabin so that we could have bread rising. And it still heated up the cabin just fine as she ran it through the bench, and she would put her little fan inside the oven and just blow the air out of the oven.
Well, that's what we did yesterday. It was getting chilly when we went out yesterday, and I went out with the kids, and I went out and started the stove, got it going. Everybody was nice and warm. But I put too much wood in. I was thinking, it's cold, it's going to be cold tonight, and so I put more wood in, forgetting that once it comes up to temperature and I have it going through the bench, I need to stop. I need to stop putting wood in it.
Right.
So I let the fire go out at 6 o'clock at night last night. I should have let it go out at 4 o'clock last night. And when we got up at 8 o'clock this morning, everything was still warm. So
That sounds
I let it go out at 6. I didn't start it again until 8, and I should have let it go out at 4.
And you guys, it is an amazing heat out there. It is like a warming heat that just soaks right in without really drying you.
Yeah,
It's
really
like
nice.
eating a chicken pot pie, a comfort food. It's like
It is. It's not overbearing.
Let's see if we have any questions. Okay,
Unless,
so
when you're ready to market your system in South America.
well, you can get it.
Well,
on
you can
Etsy.
still get a phone mate, and you can follow along and do any of the projects and have access to the information to
And
do
the-
any of the DIY projects.
the
That's
maker
what-
show
yeah.
says, "Hey from Alaska."
Somebody asked me on my channel the other day, they said, oh, I want one so bad. I'm like, well, go make one. I didn't realize you didn't have your plans up yet. I thought you already had your plans up.
Oh.
Because everybody over my
Get your
channel was
plans
asking
up.
about it.
Yeah, I am right now drawing out the layout plans with all the dimensions so that somebody could basically take a sheet of sheet metal and look at it and just draw the squares they need to draw out to go ahead and do it. And then I'm going to have to do a step-by-step instruction on how to put tabs on what pieces and what pieces to leave without tabs and where the measurements go. And so it's kind of entailed. It's like writing a little book.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, and once you have it up and running, you see little things. Like when Darwin walked in the door, a little piece of the sheet metal tore a little bit. And so now you went back and you looked at it and you're like, oh, I should have reinforced it here, or I should have changed this. And so 2.0 is always better than 1.0. So
It
you're working
is.
on
It
2.0.
really
and
is.
in my plans, I'm probably going to recommend a little bit heavier gauge sheet metal than what I used.
Although it's really nice that it's so light.
Yeah,
The
it
big
is.
It is
Sorrel
really nice.
says, "Hey from the U.S. Maine, MA, new follower. Well, hi." 50 Shades of Green says, "Good day, folks."
Awesome.
Joel House says, "Most buildings are built with concrete and/or adobe. Very little word
50
in the
Shades of
north.
Green. They've been with us from the very
That
beginning.
and other systems all fit." Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so somebody said that they use concrete or adobe because there's very little wood in the north where they are. So
Yeah.
if you're in somewhere like New Mexico, they use a lot of concrete and adobe.
Mhm.
So one of Darwin's biggest plans is to find a way to make these to code, to be able to make, because currently you can't take aircrete and create it into like a geodesic dome and then have it be code certified. They want rebar in it.
Right.
And so as you watch his channel, what you're going to see is how he's going to develop this so that it could be brought to code so people could actually build homes with it.
I actually have a wall panel system that I've put together that we're going to be working on immediately, like next week.
Right.
It's, we're starting on a shed for the grandparents, and
And I'm so excited.
it's 12 foot by 15 foot by like 9 foot ceilings. It's going to be a big little outbuilding.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a bench and a stove and a place for Grandpa to park his gold wing. And so it's going to be a nice shed. And so once the structure gets built, it's going to be a non-combustible structure, obviously, because it's going to be made completely of aircrete.
We're getting way behind on all the
Oh, I know.
messages.
Could aircrete be waterproof if you use hydraulic cement?
Yes, there are mixes that you can use that make it very water repellent, like nearly waterproof. And there are different additives that you can put in. I haven't done many tests on those additives, but I know that there are ways to make it hydrophobic, where there are hydrophobic additives that you can put in it and make it repel water. Right now, the way I'm doing it, it's so aerated that it will absorb some water. Once it's dry, it'll take on and absorb water. And what's kind of fascinating is a lot of the projects I want to do, I want stuff to absorb water.
Right.
Right? I want it to absorb a little bit of water.
Somebody did a marathon of your videos
The
for the
base
past
are-
3 days.
Well, that's pretty cool. Awesome. Thank you. So Carlos says hi from Flushing, New York.
Awesome.
I can not wait to test the system on the sidewalk when I go on vacation in South America. Ooh, let us know how that
you know
goes.
what?
That would be exciting.
You know what is a really, really good mix for a lightweight concrete sidewalk or bricks, paving bricks and stuff, is I've just discovered that my refractory mix makes really good like stepping stones. Because it has a
Really
little
good.
bit of silica sand in it. It only has maybe a quarter of the sand a normal mix has in it, but this stuff is super hard. This is a piece of it right here. It's not very heavy, but it's hard. I can hit it with the hammer. And you see, it dented it just a little bit. You guys can see that? But you'd have to hit it pretty hard. You could drive a car on that. But it's still really lightweight. And so I don't know what you're looking for, but I think if I put an additive in this that made it a little more water repellent and hydrophobic, or if you sealed it afterward, because it has such a nice finish on it, you could seal it really well. And what I found about it, remember when we were pouring the forge, the nice slump that it had? It almost looked like normal aircrete or normal concrete being poured, the way it all reacted. And so that mix is going to be up tomorrow. But just saying.
Somebody wants to know about your wall system.
Well, and
Yeah, I bet you do.
that is coming
Well,
soon, you
it'll
guys.
come.
We're building
But there-
it. We're starting the build next
Anita
week.
says
So
that 10 minutes is incredible, and
It was incredible. A lot of it where's the pucks? Where's the pucks?
the fire starter
We
pump.
don't have any down
Oh.
here. Sorry.
So the
So-
pucks make a huge difference. If I don't use those regular the fire starters that Darwin makes, then the fire starter actually warms the chimney up a little bit while it's getting the wood itself caught on fire.
And you don't use any kindling.
No, I don't use kindling. I did this
Right.
last time. I used a little piece of cotton because
Yeah.
I remember all those pieces of cotton I was pulling out of when we
Right.
did the garden bed. I
Yeah.
remembered what they were for. So I used a little piece of cotton this time, and when I did it, you have to like cram the wood box full because that flame is going to try and pull off the wood instead of developing into coals, which is why you need something that burns hot and fast and for a long time. And I think that was the difference, was the other times that I've been trying to get it started and it was slow, it was because I didn't have one of the fire starters.
And what's cool about it, that chimney starts drawing really hard, really fast. And if you don't have something in there that it will keep it from drawing the flames right off of it.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen my fire starter videos, I put so much wind on those things, and they will not go out. The more you blow on them, the hotter they get. They just turn into an inferno. And so
We actually have a video out there of setting it in snow and building a log cabin
fire
around it, and it just started, and it lit a very nice hot warm fire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
they
no
make all
kindling,
difference.
just big old blocks of wood on snow.
The rocket stove does not like paper. It does not like paper. The paper doesn't burn hot enough and there's too much ash to it. If I try to start my rocket mouse heater with paper, it is a 100% frustrating
that say?
start.
Someone's asking, Butler McDade says, since no valve on back end of tube is all my soap running to the hose from the rear. So I assume that you need to tilt the mate down so it will go the proper way. Also, would love to see a full structure and molds.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. When I hold my foam mate, I always hold it with the nose down. And that's the exact reason why.
You want to keep the cost down. I mean, the
Well,
fewer parts you have
right,
in it, the
right.
less expensive
Yeah,
it is to
the
build.
fewer parts you have in it, less expensive it is to build, and it'd be kind of hard to monkey with 3 valves at once. You could, I guess, put a valve right by the tank and stop it from going back that way, but I needed I needed to have an air regulator valve that went in both directions, to the gun and the tank at the same time.
So for everybody that doesn't understand how our kind of partnership works, is that Darwin makes these amazing things, and they don't have property right now to test things on. They don't have an off-grid cabin, and so the benefit is that I take all their inventions and I experiment with it on my off-grid cabin. I don't have to understand how to create them. I just need to understand how to use them and show, did they work? Did they not work? The first year with the Air Crete,
and
it
so
didn't work, so we did it this year.
yeah, exactly. And so you can look back at our videos, last fall, and you can see it didn't work so well. But you can also see me talking about what needed to be done to fix it, and we were able to fix it. So if you're interested in hey, this is how you use it, and this is the testing on it actually being used, then you'd want to go over to Dirt Patch Heaven and check out Julie, because she's made some really incredible videos on these things that I've come up with on the Air Crete.
But it's been really fun because we can do it really fast paced. If I see, this didn't work, Darwin and Melanie live close enough that I can be like, I need a bread oven because this top is always at the perfect temperature to cook bread, and it's driving me crazy.
And a week later, she had a bread oven.
A week later, I had a bread oven. So it's
Right?
really, really fun to be able to really, really fast pace to see, did it work, did it work, did it work?
Right.
Instead of waiting and not really having the ability to test it.
So Carlos said, thanks for sharing and all you do. And thanks, Dar, for all you're sharing, your experience. Anita says, would it hold up in a driveway?
I wouldn't recommend it for a driveway. Just because, in my experience of building roadways and stuff, you'd have to have a really, really good underlayment system on a driveway for it to never ever want to flex it to the extent that it would crack it up. I just wouldn't do it. I would use it more as like a building material for flower beds or outbuildings and sheds. I'm gonna do another shed for Julie after I get the first one done on a wall panel system, and that one's gonna be a geodesic dome.
And we're really excited about it. If
Right.
it can survive on my property with all the goats and the chickens and the kids, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a big test to see how indestructible is it really as a building.
Right?
Yeah.
Those,
And I'm most excited
Yes,
about that one because it's going to have a commercial type of a roofing system on it. It's going to be sheet metal. But the way I do it with the Air Crete is going to be incredible, I think. Hey, buddy.
Do you want to come through and see Mom? Okay. So somebody had a question.
Okay.
They want you to take it to Peru and build. Oh, but somebody else wanted to.
No codes. No codes in Peru.
But one of the things is Darwin really wants to test it out himself before he commits to somebody living in it or having people follow him. You'll notice we've done some pretty extensive tests on anything that would be safety related. And so once he has the sheds up and we've tested it.
And this is a real good environment here in eastern Idaho. It's has a huge freeze-thaw cycle. Mm-hmm. We're just below the Tetons, an hour south of the Teton Mountains. So we're in the Rocky Mountains. They call it kind of a high desert, but it doesn't have a real moist environment. But we have extreme weather systems here. I mean, like 2 weeks ago we had 1/4 inch size hail and the winds 50-mile-an-hour gusts, and that happens a lot.
Well, and you're going to have the geodesic dome up soon. It's not. It's going to be done this summer.
Right.
And somebody had a question about, can you make a system more compact, especially if connected to a tank? You've already done that. Have you already done that?
Yeah, I have. So you can take pretty much any tank. I would suggest something like a used up. If they're over 12 years old, you can't use a propane tank anymore. And I developed a system where you can take just the end gun and hook it to an alternate tank, and we have a video out on that as well. I forget what it's called.
Oh, sorry. As I bump it, I'm so professional. Okay, somebody said something about ICF. Where did it go?
Would aircrete be okay to use in ICF forms? Would it hold the load of an earth roof?
That's a lot of weight.
That is a lot of weight.
But don't a lot of times they beam
They
it.
plan to use a membrane with wood chips on top so it would be a little lighter.
I've only ever seen it done with beams, like lots and lots of
Yeah.
beams.
Wow,
Steel.
at this point, I would be super hesitant to say yes on something like that, just simply because I'm not there, I'm not the one building it, and I'm not the one that is trying to have this foreseeability and look and say, okay, we have to do this, this, and that.
Yeah, safety first.
Would your aircrete work for parking stops?
What was the other thing that it said?
I mean, it would work as parking
But they're
stops,
light.
but
Plus, then you could just move
the thing about
right?
aircrete is it's super lightweight. So parking stops, you typically want them to be pretty heavy.
And somebody wanted to know, have you had it strength tested?
You know, I haven't. I do want to do some gravimetrical tests on it, meaning compression tests on cylinders of it. And so I talked to Melanie about this just yesterday, building one that was kind of, I mean, they have load cells and hydraulic ones, but they're super expensive. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars for these concrete testing machines. And because it doesn't have to go up to like 250,000 pounds like a traditional one would that is testing traditional concrete, I could probably build one with a leverage arm and a sliding weight system to slide the weight a little more and put some more weight on it and slide it a little more. And you can mathematically figure out, you know, force times distance equals torque and positive rotation, negative rotation. That whole kill laws of torque stuff. Right. I could mathematically figure out when this 5-pound weight was here, here, and here, how much pressure it was putting back here.
So and you're the guy.
So
you're the guy for the job.
I am going to build this, that machine and do some extensive testing, but I'm going to say I'm a year out on that because we're moving out of our rental in about 3 months and getting some property. And once I get my shop up and built, I will put in a compression machine test blocks, and that means I'll probably have mixed designs that are hydrophobic and repel water, some that absorb water, some that do this, some that work good in a refractory, some that work good as an insulation, some that work good in a stovepipe, and they'll all be a little bit different. But if it's going to be anything that's used in a building, I'm probably going to strength test it.
Yeah.
And that way you can kind of extrapolate out the numbers and say, okay, if it was a wall and it was this thick.
Can hardly wait to see the shed. It can replace compacted backfill for the road. Both of you have good videos and we thank you for your knowledge. Thank you, Jeffrey Weeks. How are the building codes? Will you need a building permit for your dome?
Break it up, Julie. It's not yours.
We're gonna build the dome as
it says LOL, Beverly Farms.
What's not mine?
Break it up, Julie. Do you want you to break the aircrete? I don't know.
What?
The shed?
I don't know. We don't understand.
Say it again, Beverly. I don't understand.
And then Joe says, here the issue is heat. I look forward to your roofing system. I think I have the wall and floor systems covered. Maybe you can
visit northern Peru.
That'd be amazing.
So he's building the actual building. And I am probably about a year out from doing any extensive traveling. outside.
And he tried to knock over the camera.
Sorry.
Oh.
You already have one broken.
We already have one broken camera.
Yeah.
Let's not break our other one right now.
Right.
I'm hard on cameras.
So basically our plans right now are to get the forge videos out, and I've got to make Mrs. Honey do a knife out of a rasp in the forge. And I have these off-grid candle wicks that float on wax. And when you light them, it transfers the heat down and melts the top 3/4 inch. So you can put them in a receptacle full of wax, just set it on there, light it, and it just floats down as it burns every ounce of wax, and there's no waste. And so when you buy like a 20,000 hour candle or something, you really have 20,000 hours worth of.
They are actually quite amazing.
And I
I'm
need
excited.
a forge to build that.
Thanks
So-
for your vids. Going to try and make a dome home using air. Have you heard of Cal Earth?
Cal Earth, yeah, I've heard of it. It's a place where they do a lot of alternative building styles. But did you see the next one?
I didn't.
Aircrete Guru Sensei Master.
Exactly.
Good job, Eric. Well said.
Our country will.
Our country will not let people grow or use hemp for making hempcrete, which would lessen carbon footprint of building. I sure wish U.S. would let technology come to America.
Well, we've got the
beds.
timber industry, and you've got the concrete block, and CMU is what they call it. I used to be that's masonry, mortar blocks, and everything that's in there. I used to be an inspector, a CMU inspector. And in fact, I just saw the
Is there
manual.
anything you haven't done? That's the question.
Well,
As
that
far as,
was that was just part of the stuff I was certified in. I was certified in concrete, asphalt, embankment, underlayment, waterproofing, CMU.
You're a welder.
Yeah.
You're a carpenter.
And so those were just things that I worked.
He's a jack of all trades.
He's a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
but he is a master of all trades. I think is probably a good way to say it. Right?
You know that one, what's his name? That one show where the guy could do anything. That he was like a spy.
Oh, MacGyver?
Yeah.
Oh, he's MacGyver. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Sometimes
so
I call
funny.
him MacGyver.
Have you tried to use fiberglass as a reinforcement?
No. Well, I've used it a lot when I worked in the concrete industry. We would put fiberglass in, and it made a huge difference in the compression test. And I really think it would work great in aircrete as well. I haven't done it, but I am going to do some additives in the wall panels for the building system. So
And you already tried cob. So he did put some straw in my
Yeah.
garden beds.
and
in
if
the
you get too
forest.
much of it, it makes it real crumbly and break up. If you don't have enough, it just doesn't seem cobby enough. But if you get it just right, what ends up happening, because if you keep concrete moist as it's curing out, and it slowly cures out, it gets harder and harder and harder. So if you put just the right amount of cob in it, it holds the moisture in, so it cures out slower, and it makes a much harder block. And that's what I learned about doing that garden bed. And I'm telling you, I meant it the other day when I said, if you're getting a foam mate and you have bigger ideas and aspirations for it, and want to build some things that take some structural strength, that'd be a good starter project to start with.
Bricks.
Bricks.
Some kind of bricks for
You
a
know,
garden bed or a path or
Garden
something.
bed, pathway, walking path, doesn't matter. By the time you get 200 or 300 of those built, you'll
You'll know
have
what you're doing.
you'll have a good feel for the
Exactly.
product.
Or you'll
Yeah.
give up and you'll go buy the recipes from you.
Yeah.
So Dennis Case says hi from St. George.
Well, hey,
And
buddy.
keep up the good work. Basalt fiber in the aircrete for countertops.
Basalt fiber. I am excited about
Really.
basalt. Yeah, it is crazy. They're taking. I mean, we think, oh, basalt. It's
Right,
everywhere. Because
right.
here in eastern Idaho,
We're
it's
surrounded by it.
we're
Right.
surrounded by it. But they are smelting that down and melting it down and making fiber, like a ceramic type fiber stuff, and it's like so strong. It is
Really?
crazy.
I've
If
never
you ever
heard
get a chance to watch some YouTube videos on it.
Yeah.
And so
Like
I
a
am
project.
excited about trying some
Right?
basalt fiber in there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
will be trying that
So
soon.
what did you mean about countertops?
making a countertop out of it. Aircrete for countertops.
So
Honeydew
Well-
Guru.
I think I could come up with a mix to make kind of a lightweight top that was about 2 inches thick that would hold up good. And it'd probably have to have a skin type of reinforcement on both sides. And then I would probably... Countertops, you want something super duper hard that doesn't absorb anything or can't absorb any, the E. coli or anything that might be on meat or something if you tried to prepare it on it. So if I were to do a countertop project, that's the way I would think about it. I would think about, okay, I don't want it to be ultra heavy like having a concrete countertop, which a lot of people are doing, but they are ultra heavy.
Right?
These are yeah.
So you could make a panel of aircrete and then and have a skin on the bottom, meaning like either a fiberglass mesh or a steel fabric mesh on the bottom, and then the skin on top would be a good 1/2 inch of something super hard,
So Eric says
Like
that he's
some
been trying to
granite.
talk his wife into building a dome home, and that I start going into the technical parts, the great properties, start daydreaming of all the attached rooms, how much we could do, and then I realized my wife left 30 minutes ago.
that's John. That's John. That's the ones that geodesic don't, because they're tornado, hurricane proof. If you do them right, they are earthquake resistant, and they are amazing. And John
Nah.
wants one so bad, but they don't have enough light.
They are
the
amazing.
dome system that I'm putting in at Julie's for the first, and it's not going to be extremely huge because we're putting it in as a non-coated outbuilding, and so it's going to be kind of a miniature test of what you can do, but throughout the whole skeleton of it with all the aircrete panels, there's going to be a kind of a seismic expansion and contraction joints between just all over the whole thing. It's going to be crazy, you'll see.
So Darwin showed me aircrete in a video, and I looked at him and I just said, well, you shouldn't have done that. Now you have to build me a home out of it.
Right? But I get 1.0 because
Yeah.
that way
So
It's
yeah,
not-
you get one.
you survive. We all survive 1.0.
Yes.
I feel that every single time. Every time he comes up with a project, I'm like, we're all gonna die. We're just all gonna die. And I think that for the first couple trial runs, and after the first couple trial runs, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Why doesn't everybody have this? But I admit, I'm scared for the first couple.
It is actually really funny because you can tell that she's scared, and we're all like, "It's okay, Julie. It works just fine, Julie."
You
Yeah.
should have seen the look on her face when I just lit my forge about 10 minutes ago, and it
Like,
went
whoa.
poof, and she was like, and I'm like, it's just my eyebrows. Give her a rest.
All right. So Douglas Pohl says, please write a DIY aircrete gravimetric test.
Gravimetric test.
Oh,
yeah.
so DIYers can know their mix metrics.
I will keep data when I get a gravimetrics machine to do the compression test, Douglas.
How would you
And
waterproof an
I'll
aircrete
build
dome?
How would you waterproof an aircrete dome? Where are you gonna put?
I'm gonna do.
Plastic?
You guys will have to wait for the video.
Yeah, right.
It's cool, the system I'm gonna use.
But you might invent something else between now and then. That seems to happen a lot.
Exactly.
Every time he's like, this is what I'm going to do, it turns out completely different.
You just gotta do
So
things
he
on the
says
fly.
this.
Do you know my husband?
So he says this. That's probably not what it's going to look like when he's done.
Exactly. And it's always way better.
It's always
anyway.
way better.
Hey, I want to insulate my shop with aircrete.
Now,
Also,
aircrete
hi,
as
Joe.
an
Hey,
insulation,
William.
incredible.
Isn't that
Okay.
what you're doing in the
Keep
sauna?
up the good
Now-
work. I'll be using a bunch of cool ideas. Hi, I love all your projects from Down East Waves.
So isn't that what you said you were going to do
Like-
between the...
I have a chunk of this stuff, and it got really hard. It was what it was. I thought it was a fail. I thought it was a complete fail, but it ended up getting really hard.
This is one of our very, 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 very first pours.
Yeah,
And
Of-
we broke it up and threw it out in my flower bed.
yeah. Of the brick that we were doing for the flower beds, I put what I thought was too much lime in it, and it did. I mean, look, they're consistent, but there's big air pockets in it. Okay? But you know what I would use this for? If you have, a hollow airspace that you want to fill up and use it as an insulation, this is the mix I would use. You know what? I can post an insulation mix along with my refractory mix by tomorrow. I'll do that.
And where do you put it? Where do you
What?
put it? Where do you post your mix?
Oh, it's on the Do Carpenter shop on Etsy.
So people can find it.
Yeah.
They're like, where is he posting all this
What are
stuff?
you
We can't
talking
find it.
Thank you so much for sharing
Three
your
for
knowledge
one.
with us. I enjoy watching all three of you. So when you're together, we get 3 for 1.
My mom is on.
Oh,
Hey,
your mom's on.
Mom.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for your generous sharing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
every
that's right.
time I get a fail, every time I get a complete fail, that it was really crumbly for about 4 or 5 days. But if you're just going to put it in a wall and it's just going to sit there until it gets hard, it would be a great insulation. It's light. I mean, like way light. Like
So
It
is
is
this
super
light.
is this
Super
the one you
light.
thought you wanted to use in the sauna? Is that
No,
what you were thinking?
yes.
Or your panels.
right, this is it. And I discovered it
Sauna.
doing
Remember
The
the,
blocks.
outdoor shower
Yes.
with the rocket stove in it? So
Yeah.
that we can light. heat
But then you
things
said
up.
sauna. I'm like, wait, is she building a sauna too?
Well,
I
it's
got
the same thing.
confused.
it'll be both.
Same thing.
It'll be a
both.
shower sauna. But yeah, I was trying to make a brick for
Right.
a raised garden bed, and it was just not working. It was too crumbly, and I discovered a great insulation mix for Crete.
But you did learn a lot.
I did, yeah.
The thing that I loved the last couple times that I started up the rocket stove was that even just having the heat go out the chimney, the shroud around the rocket stove that had the pea gravels,
Mhm.
and also the aircrete around the stove itself. This time around,
Mm-hmm.
my aircrete inside the stove was part of the insulation. Like, it took a long time for it to warm up. It wanted to just insulate, but after a
Right.
long time, it did warm up. And I had fallen asleep out in the cabin on a cold day, and I had kept it directing up the chimney instead of into the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that the stove itself warmed up, and I woke up thinking, why is it warmer in here than when I went to sleep? And it was that the aircrete itself had finally warmed up around the stove itself, and it stayed warm a long time, which kind of
Oh, it
surprised
does.
me.
Well, it has a steel skin around it. And somebody, when I was building that and I put the steel in for the burn chamber, somebody said, oh, if you're insulating it, it'll melt out and that's not going to work. Or warping. They said, get ready for warping.
I haven't had any.
Who was that? Was that?
I don't
I think
remember
it was
who.
Douglas.
I don't know.
But what happens is,
I don't remember.
because there's aircrete around the whole steel burn chamber, it gets hot pretty much all at the same rate, and it cools down slowly at the same rate. What causes warping in steel is when it's super hot on one side, and then it's radiating off really fast on the other, and they're completely differentials in the temperature, and this side wants to expand because it's super hot, and this side wants to shrink because it's a little cooler, and you get the warping like you did on the Yukon stove.
Right, which we did.
Right.
Yeah.
But she'll never get that on the burn chamber inside this stove.
Well, and what gets me about it is the longer I burn it, the more difference, the more ways that I burn it,
Sorry.
the longer, the hotter, the shorter, all these things,
Yeah.
the more
For different
I kind of,
uses.
it's just amazing that I'm using the same wood every time. Same wood, same cabin. The temperatures outside are different, but this last one where the mass in the stove itself was what kept me warm. Really, it wasn't overpoweringly warm. It was just really pleasant, and so the difference between the chimney and the bench seems to be what's making that difference. Is I have so many different places that heat is stored.
All right, let's see. Okay, so Paul S. says,
Golden
so
Valley, Arizona.
off topic, your wife looks at you with eyes that say, I'm so proud of you. Damn, she is the one.
Aww.
Oh.
I love this guy. All right, so Desert, and thank you for that. That's a very nice
Someday
comment.
we're gonna get on and do a live show and tell our story because
It's a good story.
Jerry Springer would have been proud to have us as a guest at one point. I'm telling you.
Right. All
She
right.
was a mess. I don't know.
He's stepping out of the camera for just a second. All right, So Desert Angel Homestead said, hello from Golden Valley, Arizona. Your inventions and videos are amazing. I am planning on getting a tiny house similar to Dirt Patch Heaven's tiny house.
Well, I love it.
It's an amazing place.
It is an amazing place.
We love going out there.
I sleep better there than anywhere else.
Consider Airform for Aircrete in constructing a dome. Very fast, I would think.
Oh, like what they do. Have
Like
you
a
seen
big
the big bubble that
Oh
they
yeah,
monolithic.
I mean that is a cool building system, and they can actually build huge commercial buildings like schools and stuff, for a smaller amount of money than a conventional building, and they're actually non-combustible. All they do is they put big fans in, blow up kind of a big balloon in the shape they want it. They blow a layer of insulation. And all the time these fans have to be going or the thing would implode on itself, right? And then they just put this rebar system that's tied together, in the dome configuration. And then they spray Crete on it. And I have a lot of experience with Crete. We did retaining walls and stuff on highway projects using Crete.
Eric says, hi, thanks. I'll give you my wife's phone number.
Does she need talked into it?
Talking into it. The name on here was formerly Angelica Speakman, Desert Homestead. So she changed her name, or the
Channel, maybe?
Yeah, the channel. Spray it on a rebar and wire arbor for a dome. We have a lot. I don't know how many messages we have. Beverly Farm says, have you tried a conventional mixer to make the foam Crete? Down East Wave said, will you do the sew and fill in the air type dome? And
Geodesic.
Anita,
You're doing geodesic.
Yeah.
That's the answer to that one.
Anita Johnson says it looks like lava rock.
Certain mixes that I do end up feeling and looking and weighing about just like really lightweight,
Hummus or something.
kind of hummusy.
Somebody wanted to ask you about, I'm going to make a portable rocket mass heater for my hunting canvas tent. If you don't mind, would like to bounce ideas with you. Do you have a generic email address?
Oh, yeah. Generic?
Well, your email address.
Just honeydewcarpenter1@gmail.
Yep. Honeydew Carpenter.
Number 1
at Gmail.
How stable is it chemically? One vlogger said not to use concrete for garden apps as it messes up the pH levels. Well, ours is not in contact with the soil; it's in contact with carbon. So we did line the inside of the bed with cardboard, only to keep the soil from washing out eventually while we're. This is 1.0. This is garden bed 1.0.
Right.
And we used a really expensive planting medium in it, so we wanted to make sure none of it washed out. So as part of our experiment, we lined it with cardboard, and it will take a while for that to break down. But it's only going to come in contact with such a very small amount of soil that even if there was a problem with pH, I don't think it would mess with it because it's just that outer tiny amount of soil.
And
that's
there
gonna be in
is
contact.
less cement in it than normal.
Yeah. And you used
Because it's
organic
air-free.
soap
And we
too.
used-
I did.
Yeah.
I used organic soap, and I used organic hydraulic medium in it called J-Lube that makes it a little more hydraulic and easier to work with. And I mean that stuff is a lubricant for veterinaries. It's an OB for internal use for animals. I mean it's completely toxic.
So it's an experiment. It could be that
Yeah.
it might affect the pH, but then again, it might actually be good for us in our area because our pH is very high.
Right.
We're like a 7 point something.
I think they call them monolithic domes.
No, the one with the airform is a monolithic dome because it's done
Right.
all in one piece, but he's doing a geodesic dome,
Right.
which is going to be triangles
Exactly.
linked together.
So Harry Mandelo says that he's so happy that you are doing aircrete tests with your background, and I have a monolithic aircrete pour I'll be doing within the next month. If you could come up to New York, the
Catskills.
are love to have you.
So he wants you
Oh.
to come out and see him.
Oh, that would be actually quite exciting to do.
Well, Mrs. Honeydew is going to like.
Sorry, I just saw the email in the
Right.
description. If
She's
my
gonna be
idea
down.
works, it will be amazing for all those nights in the mountains and chasing the elk and deer. Yeah, send us
Yeah.
an email, Eric.
Oh yeah, I want to make kind of a mini version of it for like a sheep herder's tent, you know. And what I'd like to do is, if you have the same elk camp you go to all the time, what would be really cool is to show you how you could take your mini version, and what I want to be able to do is so you can dig kind of a hole or a trench out and run your pipe down around through there and run some heat under your sleeping bag and then out, because it'll drop. It'll draft down if you do it right. So I want to do a mini version. Yeah, I want to do a mini version that kind of does, what do they call those heaters that the Indians used to do, where they run the fire into the ground?
I've seen about it.
So this would be a kind of a mass dome for the mass under your sleeping bag.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be awesome.
And
they do it in South Korea. I have a friend, Sammy.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, is they have an earthen oven that they run the heat through into water, and then they have pipes of water under the floor in the sleeping room, so that you sleep really warm, and it comes off your cooking stove.
And that's another one I want to do, because
Right? Don't ever give him a new idea.
no,
because he'll run with it.
no,
Right.
I want to have one that has a coil in it
Mm-hmm.
and a water tank that feeds into the coil. Once the water is boiled to the point that it pushes out, it'll have directional valves, so it can only push one way. It actually kind of creates a pump, and I want to pump it under our tent, under Mrs. Honeydew, and then as it cools down, the new stuff pushing in would push the cool water back up into the tank, and it'd be just this rotating system all by heat, and it's meant to heat Mrs. Honeydew in her tent.
I think that
Under
you need
the
to go
sleep
teach
bag.
classes at Paul Wheaton's workshops. That's what I think you need to do. I honestly think you should.
We are running out of time, and we may not get to all of the
What's your-
questions.
They want to know, does Air Crete float? My husband wants a houseboat. It does if you keep it dry.
Yeah, it does if you keep it dry.
So
you
you
would
have
have
to
to have a sealant or a waterproofer on it to make pontoons or something out of it. But
They do make
the military
canoes and
did
stuff
make
out
a floating boat
Really?
out of concrete back in the way early 40s or 50s. I forget. You
Right.
have to research
He
it.
says you need to go look at Space Crete.
Oh. Is that the stuff that just expands? And,
I don't
know.
oh.
Somebody else says, Harry said the dome air foam is the method that I'll be using. I'm inviting you to the Catskills in New York.
Oh, sweet.
I think it's gonna be. I'm gonna be a year out before I start traveling the country doing much.
Yeah.
We are planning on doing that, but we have to get our property up and going here.
We're at a critical point, and we need to not stop.
Well, and it's
Right.
kind of like what we do, and like what Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. If you've ever watched Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, when they go and they do an event, they have a group get together that pays for them to get a hotel and pays for them to get an airplane and pays for meals, so that they don't have anything out of pocket when they get there. And so when Darwin and Melanie do it later, it's going to have to be that kind of thing, because these trips eat up everything that you have as you're making these projects. You're making a living for your
Right.
family. If you don't have people there that are making sure that it's not coming out of pocket, these trips get really, really expensive. So if you guys want to have Darwin come out and do something like this, and you want his help, you can approach them on their email. If you want consultation help or something like that, you have to make it worth their time, not as far as like huge payments, but to make it so that they can fly out without it actually burdening their family. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Well put. Julie,
So check
thank
out a 3D printer for foamate use.
you. We have seen some of those, and they're kind of cool.
That is.
Air Crete has actually been used for building in the European Union
For decades.
decades.
Yeah,
but
I
you
didn't
know what's
know
funny is over
Yeah,
there.
they do, and they sell it as big, large building blocks and everything.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
in like China, for instance, there's 16,000 aircrete factories
Mhm.
where they create aircrete building panels and everything.
Say here.
You know how many there are in the United States?
0?
No, there's like 4, but they're only for
If anybody
the
even knows about
small
it.
scale. Nobody knows about them because they won't
There's too much money wrapped
Yeah.
up in other building systems.
exactly.
Anita Archibald says, "Wow, Harry Don. Oh, sorry, I'm messing up your name. But they've seen your videos. That's pretty
They've
cool.
seen all of our videos. Awesome.
I have seen Steve's dome. They are using Aircrete now to build their dome homes for about $3,000.
Where are they doing it? Are they doing it here
Nate
or are they
gets
doing
in.
it overseas?
Steve's dome. Yeah.
Because
Are they doing
everything
it
that
here?
we've seen, it has to be overseas because they don't have building code for it that they have approved yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Dakota Fire Pit. Thank you.
Dakota. That's what I was
it's
looking
called.
for. The Dakota Indians. Yeah.
Fox
Okay.
stove.
Yeah.
Geothermal, the ground.
Geothermal, the ground storing the heat. The Romans did a hypocaust heating under the floor. Mason says, hey.
Hey, Mason. How you doing, buddy? That's Mason Shanks.
Oh.
Oh,
Hi, Mason.
oops.
Yeah, don't say no.
Dara got excited.
He's my buddy.
Thanks for sharing your mind with us. Leading by example is very appreciated. Prayer for you guys and continued success. Thank you, Eric. Paul says, Mike, welcome. I was just about to say that as well, I guess. Plates for panels, on-dual heater that uses charcoal for fuel but soar.
Point is CO2 from the cracks.
Yeah. Aircrete is strong enough for a decking on my bridge. Is Aircrete strong enough for decking on a bridge?
Yeah, as long as there's a substrate under it would be fine. And is it a walking bridge? I don't know. What are you talking about?
Driving on it?
Yeah, if you're driving on it, I'm gonna say no.
And try it in other things before you put in something structural that's a safety thing. Experiment with it. You might have the mix wrong. He might have written the mix in one way, and then you do it slightly different. And so if it's the safety of your family, don't take our word for it. Test it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nate says it's overseas, so they're doing.
Yeah, so that would be why.
Yeah.
We can't do it here yet.
And then Paul says, or Mike says, Paul S. thumbs up.
Hexagonal star forms for your geodesic dome. They fit and they're fast. I used to know Lloyd Turner, who invented the airform and polyurethane foam dome system. I'm the first one in Los Gatos. Oh my goodness, we're gonna see if we can figure out how to say that.
Yes, walking I-1.
No.
Nope. Need something that won't rot.
Well, Aircrete doesn't rot.
No, it's
And
bugs won't eat it, termites won't eat it. I mean, it's not gonna mold. It'll be around for centuries. If you put it together right and you put the right skin on it, it should last forever.
Korean home heating system uses air only. So what Sammy told us was that they used water in their pipes, is what she told me, and that's what she'd slept on her whole life. So her mom still uses it to this day. They have a wood burning stove that's outside the home that they cook on.
And it's called a wood burning boiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. I showed one of those to Melanie on a video and said this would be a good option when we end up getting our complex with a dome and then little dome cabins, because you can run a huge wood-fired boiler and you can direct the heat in wherever you want to go. It's kind of like a little mini utility factory,
Yeah.
you know.
I've never seen it, but she says they're amazing. She says it's the nicest way to sleep at night. Everybody's sleeping in the same room on their
It
mats.
sounds like you'd always go to bed with a nice warm without having to heat up the bed yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we got to go. So you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you guys later.